Welcome to another episode of the When to Pick series. Today's episode is on a jungler who breaks all the rules, Jungle Karthus. Jungle Karthus is one of the more odd junglers in the game, who serves no real purpose other than to annihilate the enemy team. He is a pure magic damage dealing champion who has the potential to snowball out of control and single-handedly carry the game. Karthus carries the usual strengths and weaknesses of AP junglers in that he can be incredibly fast as long as he can maintain his mana, and that he's very vulnerable to enemy invaders. He is godly at securing objectives thanks to the power of his lay waste. He can be seen as a very selfish pick as you are bound to snatch a few kills from your teammates from time to time, but at least Karthus is one of the more dangerous snowballing AP junglers who, as I already mentioned, can single-handedly carry a team. Jungle Karthus, as already stated, has the weakness that other AP junglers have, coupled with the fact that he's even worse at early dueling due to his spells being weak versus mobile champions. It is very likely that the enemy team's jungler will attempt to take advantage of his early weaknesses. His ganking in general is dependent on how strong his wall can be on his targets. With that in mind, he is a risky early pick, although the enemy team might believe Karthus is not the team's jungler and will not pick accordingly. Either way, it is best to at least avoid having a jungle opponent that can abuse you while you have no answer to them. Karthus' true power comes from the ability to snowball out of control without much effort. His ultimate can snatch him kills or assists from anywhere on the map, which will equal both experience and gold. It is not a rare occurrence that the frequent use of his ultimate will end up in Jungle Karthus over-leveling everyone in the game. He can build full glass cannon with no worry, as he can contribute in fights even while he is dead. Most junglers, including other AP junglers, will normally have to invest in some form of survivability, especially early, but Karthus forgoes that rule and can delay his defensive purchases till later in the game, or never even bother purchasing defensive items. He can be a massive obstacle for enemy melee champions, as his Defile will melt anyone near him or fighting on top of him. A few of his spells can wreck someone in short order, and a common tactic by Karthus players is to simply flash on top of the enemy carry and kill him in a short amount of time. Karthus will force the entire enemy team to have to invest in magic resistance, as there's no way of preventing Karthus from at least using his ultimate during a team fight. If it's not on cooldown, that is. Karthus will become a threat at some point. Even if he's shut down early, stalling the game greatly works in the favor of Karthus, and his ability to kill secure or kill assist can help him bounce back better than most junglers. The inability to fully shut him down can be enough reason to pick him. Karthus is an AoE powerhouse, so it would make sense that he's a very capable champion in full engaged team compositions, especially those that rely on aerial effect damage. He can be a very strong pick in a team full of physical champions, as his magic damage is threatening enough to warrant quick magic resistance, and force the enemy team to decide whether or not to purchase armor or magic resistance. In some cases, Karthus can be a very effective choice with siege compositions, as his poke can be decent and his wall and defile are great deterrents to enemy aggression. With that in mind, Karthus can be an absolute nightmare for full engaged compositions, as killing him won't deter his Defile and ultimate from coming into play. Karthus has definite issues versus a high mobility team composition, especially those involving kiting and poking. Anyone who can displace him and deny his Defile is a definite threat to him. Anyone who has knockbacks such as Janna, Alistar, and Lee Sin should definitely be avoided. He also tends to be countered in multiple ways by Soraka. His builds are pretty static and do not deviate too much from the standard. At most, the Karthus player will have to decide between getting Tear of the Goddess or Catalyst as their mana item, since both would be overkill considering Spirit of the Spectral Wraith will be enough to sustain his jungle clearing. The choice is basically between being a mana battery or becoming tankier for the late game. Straight AP tends to be the best choice for Karthus afterwards though. Now let's go over some of the things we learned. Karthus is purely for magic damage and can snowball out of control with very little effort. Even if he's gimped early on, he will become a threat at some point. He is basically a ticking time bomb of a champion. He has the AP jungler weaknesses such as reliance on mana and a weakness to invasions, but is a very fast farmer and his ultimate allows him to enact global pressure. His weaknesses and vulnerability prevent him from being a strong first pick, as it is best to pick him late into champion select. His ganking is largely dependent on his opponents and may be too risky and ineffective to attempt, but his objective control and early teamfighting is powerful and deadly. He is weak versus high mobility champions and poke team compositions, but he is absolutely deadly versus full engaged team compositions. On that remark, he fits hard engaged compositions as well, especially those reliant on area of effect team fighting. His builds are not very malleable, and he is best built with as much ability power as possible. As a personal recommendation, he is by far one of the most fun AP junglers I have ever played, and it is a thrill to be such a threatening character. Karthus can absolutely snowball out of control and win games by himself, and it's such a wicked experience just annihilating entire enemy teams with just one click of a button.